all about cheese. So one of the things that I get asked all the time when my customers and people are wanting to know how to live a more plant-powered lifestyle is, how do you give up cheese? And the answer is, you do not have to. And that comes from one former dairy cheese lover to you. I used to love cheese. In fact, it was one of my favorite food groups. Sorry, I'm looking down there. All of a sudden was a little update on my computer. I used to love cheese, and that is why I have been so passionate about creating easy, affordable, approachable, plant-powered recipes that incorporate that amazing cheese flavor. So for today's class, I'm gonna teach you a creamy cheddar broccoli soup, which is one of my favorites. It takes me straight back to my childhood. I absolutely love this soup, especially in the fall or for the holidays. It just takes me back to childhood. It's creamy, it's delicious, but this soup is loaded with veggies, and I guarantee your kiddos won't know they're there. And the second dish I'm gonna teach you is, of course, what's everybody's favorite cheesy dish? Actually, I should ask you in the comments, what is your favorite cheesy dish? Are you a cheddar soup, mac and cheese, some kind of Alfredo? What do you love, grilled cheese? Let me know in the comments. But one of my favorites and a staple at most family gatherings and holidays is mac and cheese. And I am gonna teach you an amazingly easy, delicious, and plant-powered mac and cheese. And then we are gonna finish this class out with caramel apples. I know it's not cheesy, but they are so good, and it goes so great with cheese. So without further ado, let's get this party started. So what we're gonna start with today is our creamy cheddar broccoli soup. And this one reminds me a lot of, there's that famous restaurant chain that's known for sandwiches that starts with like a pan and ends with era. This, if you love their broccoli cheddar soup, you will love this one. And here's what it starts off with. So I'm gonna switch the camera angle so you can tune in here. So we're gonna start off with a really humble ingredient that is a pantry staple, the everyday carrot. So I had just washed and rinsed this carrot, and this is something I buy in bulk all the time. You can get a huge sack of carrots, honestly, for about $2.99, organic ones, and they last for so long, and they are so versatile in recipes, from stir fries to soups and stews to cheese. I know it sounds crazy. No, what I do with this carrot, just wash it real good and then leave the skin on. Most people don't know this, even though it's not the prettiest sometimes, the most nutrients is in the skin. So leave that on, and then you're gonna cut it into just slices. See these? Just every day, like, you know, easy slices. And you're gonna do the same thing with the humble but beautiful gold potato. Now, why you'll notice I have some cut marks here, you know how sometimes your potatoes can get a few little sprouts on them? If they're just starting, it's okay to cut them off if they're not really in the flesh. So this potato had a few, I just cut them off, and I wanted to show you it's still okay to use, not when the sprouts are all the way within and the potato's mushy. That means it's time to go. So what you'll do with your yellow potato, and I prefer these because two reasons. One, you don't have to peel them after you wash them really good. They will blend right in with the sauce color. And if you have, because you can use a red potato, you could, I've even used sweet potatoes in here, but this has a nice starch content. And like I said, you don't have to peel them because it'll blend and match perfectly with the sauce. And then you'll just try to chop those into similar sizes that you chopped the carrots. Okay, easy schmeezy. Next ingredient, frozen broccoli. And what you'll do here, now this frozen broccoli, the recipe calls for 4 cups. You're gonna use 3 cups in what I'm about to show you, and you're gonna reserve 1 cup, which is just about a whole bag. So what you're going to do with the broccoli and all the ingredients I just showed you, so it's 4 cups of broccoli, 1 cup of carrots, 1 cup of sliced Yukon Gold potatoes. You're gonna put it in, I have one of these, I don't wanna call it fancy, it's a steamer pot. You could probably see who makes this here. You can get them online. I can even post some of my favorites in the link, or you can just use a microwavable safe container, but I'm just using one of these steamer pots. You're gonna add your carrots, your potatoes, and your broccoli. Then you're gonna add 1 teaspoon of miso paste, which I know we've talked about before, but if you are new to cooking with Carrie P, this is another staple ingredient, right? This is fermented organic soybeans. I know that doesn't sound very appealing, but it is delicious, and it will remind you almost of like a bouillon cube, or one of those little salty blocks that they can come in the chicken flavor, the beef flavor. But this is all real ingredients, and it's fermented down, so it actually will not hold in the body like salt will. I actually learned that tip from Dr. Michael Greger, and I love this. I always keep this in my pantry. I buy a 2-pack about every other month from our friends at Amazon, and if you have questions about this, I'm happy to post the links to the exact ones I buy. But so you're gonna add a teaspoon of miso, and then you're just gonna use a teaspoon of dried basil, onion powder, 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. This is one of those things you might not have in your pantry if you're just starting your journey, but this is what in the plant-powered world would taste almost like Parmesan cheese. It's nutty, it's cheesy flavored. So you're gonna add 2 tablespoons of this, 3 cups of simple everyday water, and salt, pepper, and that is it. And what you're gonna do is place all the ingredients in your steamer pot, microwave them for about 10 to 14 minutes. And all of these are in the recipe for broccoli no cheddar soup. And after, they can be found at carrieralston.com and in the Plant Powered Hallway. After it is microwaved, here is what it's gonna look like. So what you're gonna wanna do is just make sure everything is fork tender, okay? Super, super soft. Should come, all of it should, and make sure you test the carrots and the potatoes as well. And so once it comes together like that, you will know it's done. But before we get to making the soup, one key thing has to happen. We have to make the soup creamy. So we're gonna come back over here. I'm gonna show you how to do that. And what you'll need is a high-speed blender. If you don't have something like a Vitamix or a Ninja, it's okay. You could even use your food processor. It will take a little bit longer. Or my best advice, if you're brand new to this lifestyle, borrow from a neighbor or a family member or a friend. Vitamix is something I made as an investment, because it truly is an investment piece, probably about a year after I was already into my plant-powered journey. So just because you're just starting, make sure you don't have to run out and get a Vitamix. But if you have another type of blender, just know that it may take a little while longer, just because Vitamixes are super high powered. So how we're going to get that creamy flavor that would normally have dairy and butter and all kinds of fat, is we're going to use our own natural fats. And what we're going to do is start with, I want to make sure you can see this. This is just a 1 cup of cashews. And when you buy cashews, I recommend buying them in bulk, and I buy them in pieces. We're gonna blend them up anyway. You don't need the whole cashews. Here's the thing though, if you can't find them unsalted, make sure you don't add salt to the recipe. Make it all, then try it, and if it still needs salt, then add salt. These are completely unsalted cashews, and we're gonna add those to our Vitamix. Then we are gonna add some water. We're gonna add an ingredient that might sound a little different, but once you get to know all my classes, or if you've taken my classes before, I put mustard in almost everything because it adds so much flavor and there's no calories. So we're gonna add some, I'm using Dijon. You could also use yellow mustard, and I'm just using, 2 tablespoons. And then to get our really creamy flavor, we are going to add just some coconut milk. Now I'm using this right out of the can. You could also use coconut cream, but you'll use about half of the amount. But coconut milk is gonna give it such a rich, silky, like it's gonna taste like it has all that heavy cream inside, but it doesn't. Now I'm gonna warn you, this is gonna get a little bit loud. It takes about 30 seconds for this to totally come together. My tip when you're making any kind of anything in your blender is make sure you start on a low setting and then build your way up with speed. So here we go. Somebody keep count. So right now I'm at about a 2 or a 3 on my speed. I'm just gonna crank it up a little bit and let it get super creamy. Once again, this takes about 30 seconds because I want to make sure all of those little pieces of nuts are perfectly broken up and really, really creamy. And while we're doing that, I'm just going to move some of my pieces around so we have some more room. Clean up the carrots and the potatoes. Okay, and that looks perfect. So how you'll know when it's done, it should almost just look like one mixture. And here, let me flip this. I want to make sure you can see this. See how it's all just perfectly come together. You can't see any nut pieces. It just looks like a nice frothy cream mixture. And what you're gonna do from this step is add in all the ingredients that we put into our steam pot. And what I recommend you do is do that while the blender is not on its base. It's just a lot easier to transfer. Because this mixture, when it's right out of the microwave, is really, really hot. I just want to show you. See how this carrot just easily mushes right with my hand. That is definitely fork tender. So what we're gonna do is just get all of these in here. Of course, be careful of spilling. So we have the carrots, the potatoes, the broccoli, the cashews, coconut milk, and water, and then our spices. And what we'll do next is just take our blender mixture, put it back onto our Vitamix base. Now make sure, turn the blender down, right? Because we always want to start on a lower setting and just let this go to work. Now this takes about another 30 seconds just to come together. I'm going to turn it up a little. Let it start coming together. Yum. You can even see it starting to turn that creamy broccoli colored soup. Good, let me grab this down. Okay, and that, my friends, should be done. So what you're gonna wanna do, how you'll know it's done, is basically everything is all blended together. I need a little bit of a drippiness here, but I wanna show you, remember we only added 3 cups of our broccoli in. So I'm gonna flip the camera over here. This is how I normally make it. So I blend it up in the blender like you saw, microwave everything in the steam pot, get everything in the blender, blend it up. Then in the recipe, you'll notice it calls for 4 cups of broccoli. I reserve 1 cup, right? Because I want this to go either in the bottom of my bowl or leave them in the pieces in my crock pot. I generally will always make a double of this recipe because it's so good. And normally I make it during the holidays or I'll make it for a cooking class. So that's what you see here. This is just, I mean, do you see how beautiful and delicious and luscious this is? Let me get this up for you. Can you see this? It is creamy. It is cheesy. Well, I want to make sure I'm in the frame for you. It is incredible. I'm telling you, you will not know that there is no dairy in here. And then if you do have kiddos that are a little bit snicky or persnickety on their veggies, just blend up all the broccoli. I just like it for some additional texture, but you don't have to. So at this point too, your blender would be, the mixture would be hot. You could serve this and get it right on the dinner table and all this would come together in under 30 minutes, because the longest thing is just taking the time to microwave, which takes about 13 to 14 minutes. So with that being said, if you guys have any questions about creamy broccoli cheddar soup, you know what to do. Just leave them in the comments. I will definitely get back to you on them. And the fastest way sometimes to find me too is in the plant-powered hallway. I'm always there, and we have such a great community that will be willing to answer all your questions. So I'm gonna move the soup back there. And I just want to do one more double check. Oh, this looks so good. And one thing that I preached that actually I didn't do, I had a spoon out and I dropped it. Just do, before you add it, if you're gonna serve it to your family or add it back to your crock pot, just give it a quick taste. Make sure you're okay with salt and pepper, especially too if you only can find the salted cashews. It is creamy. It is cheesy. It just will warm your soul. You are going to love this soup. I cannot wait for you to make it. And when you do make it, please tag me. I absolutely love, love, love getting to see all the pictures of you guys making food. And I sometimes give away a lot of incredible prizes. So make sure to tag me at Cooking with Carrie P. All I'm gonna do real quick is just dump this into our crock pot, which is going to be perfect for later. And what I'm gonna do is, I need this blender again, so I just gotta give it a quick rinse. So give me just 10 seconds so we can go on to our next macaroni and cheese. I am telling you what, I think you're just gonna be blown away that you can make mac and cheese and hide veggies in it without, I don't even know if your family will notice. And this is such a great alternative to, I feel like, what is an American favorite. One of these days, and if you out there want to be, I need a second or third hand in my kitchen. So I'm just doing a quick rinse, and the only reason we didn't use anything that's cross-contaminating here, because it's really just veggies and some nuts. And the next sauce is so similar that I know we won't have any cross-contamination of flavors. So there we go. We'll get that in there, and we will get to mac and cheese. I just have to flip. I just have to get some of the ingredients around. So give me 2 seconds. So good mac and cheese, at least how I always grew up, was so gooey and stretchy, and the noodles were always that perfect bite, and that's what I'm hoping that you're gonna see here. Now, a lot of things that I just taught you with the broccoli cheddar soup are going to carry over for this recipe. They'll definitely be different, but we'll have some similar flavors. No broccoli this time, but we will have, I think you might have just been able to see one of the ingredients coming across. This, I have made this recipe so many times. I used to work with a nonprofit, and this was, I would say, every other week when I would go in and cook, this was on the menu. So I have made several variations of it, and it's incredible every time, but I think this one is perfect. So let's get to it. So just like last time, I'm gonna recommend you use a steam pot. So this one is a little different. I like them both. If you don't have a little steamer pot, no big deal. Just use a microwave safe dish that has a lid. It will work. I've used all of them. So what you're gonna add to this steaming pot, oh, you know what I should grab? The recipe. make sure I don't forget to tell you anything. So what it's gonna start with, let me just flip the camera here. We are gonna start with a whole bag of frozen cauliflower florets. And we are then gonna go to 1 cup of the good old humble carrot again. Once again, just washed and sliced, okay? And all of these ingredients right into your steamer pot. So your frozen cauliflower, your carrots, Then of course our miso, which is gonna give us our all day cooked flavor, right? This would just be kind of like a bouillon cube, but it's gonna give it that salty bite. I promise. One of the miso is a staple in almost all of my recipes. So if you love cooking with Carrie P in the plant-powered hallway, definitely get miso. Then you're gonna use a tablespoon of just some good old-fashioned yellow mustard. This is kind of gonna give us the tang and actually help with our yellow color. Then, this might be a new ingredient to some. We are gonna use 2 teaspoons, which is just 2 capfuls, of liquid aminos. So liquid aminos is gonna taste very similar to a soy sauce, but it doesn't have all those different additives in it. And it's gonna give our sauce that rounded, salty flavor that like cheese has with an all-day flavor. Because normally cheese has either a lot of processing to it or a lot of aging. So we don't want processing, and we definitely aren't gonna be aging this because that takes way too much time. So between the miso and the liquid aminos, you are going to get that aged cheese flavor. Then we're gonna use some everyday, you're gonna use some garlic and some onion powder, and I have them measured out because actually I have a cooking class in person tomorrow where I'm teaching this, so I just already had measured them out. So you're gonna do onion powder, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, 2 cloves of garlic, or you can use some garlic powder. And then I'm gonna use some salt, and then of course, nutritional yeast, which is gonna give us our cheesy flavor. And then it's just 2 cups of water for boiling, and everything goes right into your pot. You're gonna do this once again for about 10 to 14 minutes. My microwave sweet spot's right around, for some reason, 13 minutes and 33 seconds. Probably just because I like to hit the 3 because my hand's already on it. And they're perfect. So you're gonna have to do a little testing with your microwave because every microwave has a little bit of different power. And once this is done, we're gonna add it to our base. But before we can add it to our base, of course, we have to get the base made. Now, one thing that I would do while this is getting microwaved is I would make my noodles. And what I used today was just a gluten-free pasta, but there are so many on the market you could use. Let me show you a few. I had to grab them out of my pantry. I forgot to put them out. So one of my favorites, absolute favorite brands, highly recommend, is this called Tinkinyata. It's called Tinkinyata brown rice pasta. It's a gluten-free pasta. I love it. It's high in fiber. The only ingredients are brown rice and water. And I absolutely love this one. So I highly recommend. It comes in different shapes. You can get this. I've actually found it at every grocery store except Aldi. So I love this one. This is one that you can definitely find on most supermarket shelves. This is just a gluten-free rotini that's made from white rice, brown rice, corn, and quinoa. Also, the key thing I look for when I'm buying pasta, I like it to have as few ingredients as possible. No ingredients that I don't know what they are. And I like it when I cook it, I want it to still have the texture of an al dente pasta. I don't like it when it gets mushy or too dry and breaks apart. So those two are great. And then there's so many alternatives on the market, but I love this sometimes. This is palmini. It's actually pasta that's made from hearts of palm, which is the heart of the artichoke. Super good if you're ever watching your carbs or you just want an easy go-to meal for yourself. I absolutely love these. And actually what I had for lunch today, another noodle brand that you can have that I recommend keeping in your pantry, or not pantry, I'm sorry, your fridge. Pasta Zero. These are actually made from mushrooms. I will warn you that when you open this, there is a little bit of an odor. Completely normal. You'll just rinse these off really good and lightly heat them. Same with the palmini. You just rinse them off, lightly heat them. But they're great alternatives. I love them both. So enough about pasta, but if you have questions, about noodles and what types of noodles, because I know there's so many on the market, just ask me in the comments below or come jump in the Plant Powered Hallway. I have all kinds of videos on pasta, on what pastas I use, how to cook pasta correctly. I'll tell you, from a young girl, I had an amazing mama and 2 Italian grandmas, so I know how to cook pasta. But I'm happy to answer all your questions on pasta. So now we have our base with our cauliflower made and all of our spices, but we need that creaminess and that unctuousness that comes from macaroni and cheese, right? So we're gonna do a really similar thing. We're gonna start with the cashew pieces. These, once again, are unsalted. If you have the salted ones, just hold back on the salt that you're gonna add. Hold off on that so we can, you can make sure the dish doesn't get too salty. So you're gonna do the cashews, and this time I'm gonna use coconut cream because it's so creamy. Coconut milk will absolutely still work here. Sometimes I found coconut cream a little bit difficult to find. If you have that issue, get coconut milk, and you can always add a little bit of vegan butter if you're really used to that luscious mac and cheese, kind of that we grew up with. So we're gonna start that base. Once again, start your blender on a low speed, then let it crank up. This takes, once again, about 30 seconds. Sometimes I actually put my timer on my phone because I've made this so many times. But you wanna make sure all of the nuts are actually really broken down. And actually, I wanna make sure I didn't forget. Yep. We're gonna let that get super, I was making sure I didn't need more water. I'm gonna turn up my blender now. That gets super creamy. Sorry it's so loud. One thing Vitamix is not perfected is a quiet blender. But it's so powerful. I did have my trusty assistant here. One thing I forgot to put in with, actually, you know what? I think I put the mustard in. Never mind. Put the mustard already in there. Double check that this is all good to go. And I'd say it's perfect. Let me show you what this looks like. Can you see how rich, creamy, silky this is, right? No remnants of nuts, just pure, silky. We almost kind of made our own cashew cream, if you will. And all you'll do from here, much like our first recipe with the everyday, or with the creamy cheddar soup, is open your steam pot. Once again, when this comes right out of the microwave, super hot. You're gonna dump that in slowly, ever so slowly. Ooh. And don't get it on yourself, because turmeric, so I always wear an apron, or dark colors. Turmeric will stain. It's that natural yellow color that's gonna give us that cheesy color, but it will stain your clothes. So make sure you step back, and all you're gonna do, if you can see that, it's safely in the blender. We're gonna pop it back on to our base over here and simply just blend it up. Once again, you start on low. You don't want this hot mixture accidentally popping up. I've had it happen before. And just let it go. Start to see this turn a beautiful yellow. So you're gonna get the yellow from the turmeric, the mustard, and the carrots. She's tough. See how that yellow color is just, So once again, this takes about 30 seconds to come together, and you'll have an option here. So one, it's an ingredient that is definitely, it's vegan, but there are some vegan butters on the market. This is one that I keep in my fridge. I don't use it often, but with mac and cheese, I definitely think a few pats of butter, especially if I'm serving it to kiddos or even my family that's not all my family members are plant-based. I'll just add a few dabs of this. It's optional on the recipe, but as soon as this sauce comes together, which is about 30 seconds, but I just wanted to, I cut it a little short so I could show you the finished product because the Vitamix is just so loud. Here is what this looks like. Oh my goodness. And actually, let me flip you over here first. So you're gonna see this in the recipe. One of my tricks that I love to do is slice up a head of cabbage and I just saute it. After I cook the noodles, I just saute this half a head of cabbage down. Actually, if you're just making a single batch, just do about a quarter of a head. And I hide it in my pasta. It's just another way to get more veggies in. If you have more picky eaters, don't you worry about it. But look, can you see this? Like, and it's so heavy. It's so creamy. It's so delicious. Oh my gosh, do you see this? The shine, the ooh, the goo. It is everything you want in mac and cheese. And always what I recommend after you make your batch, reserve a little bit, toss all your pasta together and serve it. And you can always drizzle more cheese on top. Or if you're from a family that likes the crunchy topping, put it in your casserole dish and you can just take a little bit of nutritional yeast, panko, maybe some garlic powder and salt, toast it in a little butter, put it on top, and you'll have that crispy, crunchy topping that some people I know that like a more baked mac and cheese will have. The key thing if you do that, or at all pasta, just make sure it's al dente and you don't overcook it. Let it have a little bit of a toothsome feel so it doesn't get too mushy. But with that being said, I mean, friends, would you come over to my house and enjoy? Do you see the size of this bowl? It's so heavy, it's almost hurting my arm to lift it up. Yummy mac and cheese. You have to let me know when you make this and definitely tag me. This is so delicious. I cannot wait for you to try it. So our final dish, now that we have done our creamy cheddar broccoli soup, our mac and cheese, we have to have dessert. And I should have let you know that at the beginning of the show that everything was going to use just one tool, actually two, the microwave and a high-speed blender. So I'm just gonna set these ingredients back here and let me know, is this something that you think you would make for your family, this easy mac and cheese? And have you tried, I would love to know, have you tried any of those pastas I talked about? There's so many on the market now, but those I would say are probably my top 4 that are my go-to that I really enjoy. Let me get this out of the way. I don't think we actually need, oh no, I'll leave the cutting board here. So our final dish, as I mentioned earlier, is gonna be caramel apples. Talk about taking you back to your childhood. Talk about delicious and so easy to make. Even if you don't like to cook, you will make this. It comes together so easily. It will cure any sweet tooth, and oh my God, you're just gonna love it. So without further ado, let's get to it. This whole recipe just has 3 ingredients in it. I can't say enough about it. So let me flip over and show you what we're working with. So this is gonna start with the beautiful and delicious date, okay? If you haven't had dates before, don't be scared of them. And I get this asked a lot. They are not prunes, they are dates. The one thing with dates that you need to double check with is I had purchased a bag of pitted dates, but this is one from another bag I have, and they have this pit in it, okay? You don't want that going into your blender. It will definitely damage your blender. So even when you get a package, and I just got these little guys that say pitted dates, when you put them into your 1 cup measure, check. And you can just do that by squeezing them and you'll be able to feel if there's a date. This recipe calls for 1 cup of dates, and I call that 1 cup of packed dates. Whenever I make this recipe, I always double it. So that means I'm gonna use 2 cups of dates instead of half a cup of almond milk, I'm gonna use 1 cup of almond milk, and it all goes right into a blender. So that's 2 cups of dates. We're gonna use 1 cup of just, actually let me give this a shake, just everyday organic almond milk. If you have cashew milk, oat milk, you can, all of it, just any kind of plant milk. So you'll put that in. And then, just for that dessert flavor, we're gonna use a teaspoon is for a single batch, 2 for the double. And if you didn't know, the cat bowl is a teaspoon measure on most vanillas like this, most extracts. And also, if you're wanting, I was doing this great series with CBD. If you love to add CBD into any of your recipes, this is a great way because this is raw to add a little CBD, or if you love essential oils, this would be a great recipe to add that into. But other than that, this is the base. Now, another thing you could add to this is some chopped walnuts, some cinnamon would be great, maybe a little bourbon or dark rum if it was the holidays. And you'll simply make sure to start your blender on low, turn it on, slowly start turning it back up. Here it kind of, once again, it takes about 30 seconds to come together. I'm not going to make you listen to that Vitamix, but I guarantee it comes together about 30 seconds, not 13. And here, my friends, is what you are left with. Can you see? It is so beautiful. It is so delicious. This is why you want to make extras, because you will eat this in your oatmeal. You'll put it on your apples. You will find so many. Sometimes it's fun just to put on a vanilla bean brownie. It's fun to put it in some Cool Whips. There's like coconut Cool Whips on the market now. I am telling you, it's so, so good. You're gonna wanna put this, and I mean, it's just even great, just on a good old-fashioned Granny Smith apple. Yes, yes, and yes, my friends. Look at this. Okay, so to recap, our cheesy, everyday cheesy class, plant-powered cheese class, taught you creamy cheddar broccoli soup that I cannot wait for you to make. It takes me right back to my childhood. And it just requires a blender, a microwave, and some kind of microwavable dish. Then mac and cheese. I feel like an American staple. And hidden in it is cauliflower and carrots and all kinds of things that are so good for you. We even used a gluten-free pasta. And for those of us who want more veggies in, do that cabbage trick. It is so good and it gives such great texture. And of course, to finish this class, caramel apples. Yum! And you saw how fast this comes together. I cannot wait to see the pictures from you making this. Make sure to tag me at Cooking with Carrie P. If you're not a part of the hallway already, make sure to come join us at the Plant House. I should be able to speak by now, but I'm like salivating. Make sure to join us at theplantpoweredhallway.com, and you can find that at my website too, carrieralston.com. This has been so much fun. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. And without further ado, I have some food to eat. I'm so happy. Thank you for letting me into your homes. Welcome to my kitchen, and I can't wait to see you again. Have a great day.